First thing you want to do is mark center of your post here. The next thing you want to do is find out how far you want to hang the cap over the edge of the wall. In this case, we're going to do about 3/4 of an inch. And then you come to your center mark. So we're going to cut this cap off at 8 5/8. Okay, so I'm going to mark 8 5/8, and I'm going to hold my finger right here, pinching the tape, and my finger on the bottom of the tape right here is against the stone. So I'm holding that at 8 5/8, and then on this side I'll just push down and scratch a line into the capstone. So that line is where I'm going to cut that off. So I'll set the stone on top of a board or a plank to keep it off of the concrete from scuffing up the concrete slab. When I'm saw cutting, notice how I drop clear down to the bottom here, and then as I cut across here, I'm going to come clear down to the bottom, cut through the face right here before I break through the middle, and that's so that this edge doesn't break off once the stone's weight shifts. Okay, so we set the stone in place so that it's balanced across the top of the wall. So you got the same reveal here as we do on this side. It's perfectly balanced on the wall, centered. Adjust it slightly, whatever you need to do there to make it fit right. Kind of keep in mind that, so like right here, this stone kind of comes in a little bit like this compared to the others. So if you go off of it where it's in a little bit further, then when you get over there it won't be the same reveal. So you just don't want it to get too close to where that stone sticks out further than your cap. Kind of split the difference, and then you just mark it. So you mark it here, right at the edge of post, and here. You get this measurement from right here. We just have to have a 1/2 inch joint, so technically it needs to be back 3/16 off of the edge of center. Right here is where you want the cap to stop, so that you have a joint about 3/8 to 1/2 inch right there. We want to measure from here to this line, and that's where we're going to cut it off. So to transfer that to the stone, you get this measurement, which is 2 3/4, even though it's right at about 2 5/8. That gives us an 1/8 gap over here. 2 3/4 there, 2 3/4 there. Sometimes the post is not perfectly square, but this one is pretty close, so we're just going to go for it here. So there we have it. Okay, so I put the other stone right up against this one, and I'll just get the measurement of the post and measure from here over to here, the size of the post with the joint how I want it to. So we'll slide these together a little bit closer, so we got about a 3/8 joint, and we have a 5 3/4 inch post. So we mark it at 5 3/4 and 5 3/4, making sure that this is all the right size all the way across and balanced, so that this factory edge lines up with this factory edge. You can use a square to get that before you mark this. You can measure off of here to mark this, but you got to get these lined up before you mark the other one. So we needed to slide it just slightly right there. So now we can transfer that straight across now. So that's the size of our post. We'll cut those out. I like to prop it up like this, a few inches off of the ground, so that my saw blade can come in here, so the blade reaches back there kind of square, and then I can clean it up with the flush cut blade. And I'll be using the little quickie saw there to cut it in. Link in the description. Instead of just knocking those off, it's good to just put a nice little score line across there so it doesn't ragged the edge too much. Another thing to look out for is if your saw blade didn't go all the way the full depth, then it's good to come to the back of it and just score it on the back. And the way you kind of eyeball it is you hold your stone like this and then you lean it over like that, and you can kind of see a line there, and then you just put your blade right against there so it's directly below it, and then you cut into it. But in this case it's pretty close, so I can just knock those off. Need to touch it up just a little bit. Now it won't hit the post. Hold it out too far. The reason I cut these in like this several times across here is because if it's this wide of a piece, it's so tough that when I start whacking on it to break it off, sometimes these edges are weaker than this big piece. So it'd be that big of a piece compared to a smaller piece here, and it could break this off if you start pounding here pretty easy. So just to eliminate that risk, I just cut into there, cut right up to my line. Now I'm going to score it right here so that it doesn't leave a ragged edge right there. Sometimes if you don't score it, sometimes it will just break a chunk out of here, ½ inch, something that caulk or anything won't cover. Okay, now we're going to see if these fit. Slides in there right nice. It's got a nice little reveal all the way around it. The edges look good. Fit our other piece. Okay, it's looking pretty snug. Edges are lining up. So this side has a barely bigger gap than this side, but the post has a tiny bit of a twist in it. So right around this post we have this gap for expansion, and we don't want to put too much mortar in there so that it can move around a little bit. So what we're using is this quad. Home Depot sells it. I'll see if I can get a link in the description for it. It's an all-season formula. Pretty good sticky glue, and it does really well for against this particular application. It does really well. Sticks good to masonry, and I'm going with clear. It's it'll just kind of get dirty with the dust and stuff around it, so it'll fit right in with the stone. I went ahead and sealed around this bracket that was sticking up. It's kind of ugly, but I didn't want water going back behind there, going down in there and freezing. I wanted to show you a little bit around this column here. Sometimes these things have an awkward little situation. This one has the wall kind of returns back just a little bit, but not far enough to have a full cap. So what we had to do here is cut a 45 on this one, and that was the way it looked the best out of all the different ways we thought of doing it. So we notched it around the post and brought it just to the other side of the post there, and then on this side we brought it over to the other corner and then just 45'd it across there. Turned out pretty nice looking. It's a good way to do that. It's the best water seal you can get in that situation, the least joints. You could have just come and cut it clear across like this and then went over here, and then it just would have had a longer joint and it just wouldn't have looked right.